People around here trust the shepherds. Jamie, Adam, and the other Jamie. They always have. The sheep trust them too. Gather round. I'll throw another log on the fire. Turn it up just a touch, cause another episode of the BHHcast is starting now.
Brand new podcast, the BHHcast, starts now. Jamie Bendel, Jamie Hernan, Adam.
Here I come. Coming back. Gonna hit you one time. Here it is. It's gonna happen. Hey!
Hey!
Thank you very much. It's gonna be fun, people. We got a good one.
All right, I hope that you have used the time between new episodes wisely, but it is time to come within the sound of the shepherd's voices. We have a great guest for you this episode, comedian Tom Rhodes, world traveler. I'm reluctant to use the word Renaissance because I feel like it's cliched to say, but I have a real affinity for Tom. Appreciate his friendship. There are a handful of guys who challenge me to be better than I am. Get me outside my comfort zone. Live life in a way that is aspirational to me. Not possession-based, but approach to life-based. He's one of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy the episode paid off. I mean, I felt like that came across in the episode. In our interview.
Mm-hmm. Adam has not heard anything you've said. He's just wondering if you're going to
you
mention
said
him
a
next.
number of times that you loved each other in the episode.
One time.
We'll see.
I just acknowledged that
We'll
there
see.
was a...
Sheep, you know how to count. People count you all the time. But you know how to count. We're going to see how this works out.
I actually think that, first of all, I'm gonna challenge the sheep. Find a person in your life to say I loved you too that's outside your normal I love you group.
I think Boy George said it best when he said, "Do you really want to hurt me? Because that's what you're doing right now."
I have no problem. Adam,
Yeah,
if you feel like
you were slinging
it's
the
time.
man crush outside of my
It's
realm,
not,
and
it's
it
not,
hurts.
Okay, so if
And it hurts.
if that comes across as man crush,
No,
then
it's
a misinterpretation.
Actually, the fact is beyond man crush, which is even more irritating.
No,
It feels like it's a bigger deal. But the interview with Tom is incredible. Really great guy. I admire him for his ability to travel the world doing what he loves. And it's to your point, I think he does have some interesting inputs on life in general.
We talked about lost footage, recovered footage, hearing voices that you thought maybe had been lost, and finally getting to hear them again. A little bit of conversation about some baseball cards and the impact of it.
The Chinese comedy scene.
We got deep.
We covered a lot of ground, so you're going to really enjoy this episode. Don't wander too far. When we return, it will begin. This is the BHHcast. Jamie, Adam.
Taka.
Unrelated to the subject matter at hand.
Yep.
You know I have Good Dog. Best dog in America.
Ooh, I don't know about best dog in America.
You know I have Bad Dog.
I love bad dog.
Worst dog in America.
I'm going to steal a bad dog.
Okay.
I always feel bad for him.
But I'm also going to have Next Dog.
What?
Yeah, because Next Dog, well, both of these two dogs are going to die at some point.
Oh,
And
we don't have a
another
new dog coming
Not
into
yet.
the family.
But I do want a subsequent dog.
Yeah.
You know you can't put in an order for next dog.
Until you have an
Already.
opening. No, you have to wait for one of the jobs to come open. Unless
Right.
you get a third dog, in which case, kind of a weirdo.
Three dogs. If it's an orphan, I think it's okay. But yeah, it's a lot.
If you get a third dog, bad dog will get really nervous.
Oh, can you imagine?
You just keep two beds.
Poor bad dog. He's like, really? There's another dog now in front of me in the pecking order.
Yeah, so I'm sticking with two dogs.
Okay. So next dog.
Okay. My dog growing up, Great Dane. I've always wanted a Great Dane.
Yeah.
While I was on a recent
Marmaduke?
trip home, I found the AKC paperwork from my childhood dog.
No, sir.
I have decided I'm going to track down kin dog to childhood dog.
What if Great Dane kin dog turns out to be a bad dog?
So you can actually, and if you follow the AKC line,
I think I can go back.
yeah, I think you can go all the way down. And if not, we can flip that and go up the other way because they do those 23andMe's for dogs now.
I'm not testing every dog in America.
Oh,
to find
okay. So
progeny.
that's a
I'm
solid
going
point.
from
It's
dog
harder the
down.
other way. Yeah, you're right. It's harder the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just could confirm.
The best part about this story is when you get next dog, bad dog's gonna still be there, and then they're gonna find out that they were actually brothers separated at birth.
That'd be interesting. Wouldn't it be interesting if Bad Dog was related to Childhood Dog?
Yes.
Possible. Possible.
Can't be true.
No.
Can't wait.
It's not even gonna have. It's just not even possible. All right, sheep. This is an interview that I have been looking forward to. And truth be told, I got thinking about tonight's episode and our guest, who is Tom Rhodes, who we'll be introducing here in just a moment. There are few men who are my adult peers that over the years, I think I have genuinely said, I love you, man. And had them say something similar. And our guest this evening is one of those guys. I have a very close friendship with my friend, Mr. Tom Rhodes. So I want to introduce the segment in the traditional way.
Before you do, has he ever told you, Adam, that he loves you?
I don't know. I was just thinking that exact thing. I was like, have
he's told me that he
I've never
that he
said
loves
I
me,
love you
but what?
to either
No,
of
he
you
hasn't told
gentlemen.
me.
Yeah,
But
Tom says.
I certainly love Jamie Bendel.
Oh, dang.
Wait. We were talking over you. Go back.
You
said
guys
what?
are going to have to work on it.
Did you say you loved us?
Oh, I do. I love you both.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, he doesn't mean it.
By the way, he just gives that stuff out.
He doesn't mean it.
I don't think he means it.
When I want to tell you that when Tom Rhodes tells you that he loves you,
Yeah.
he means it.
Tom, can you give it to us again, but maybe
You'd
in
like to say that,
more,
but he just told me, and I've honestly never met Tom.
What about like in a Barry White kind of voice?
That's not how it happens.
I love
And you don't
you.
undermine it. You don't demean it.
No, at first I said I didn't love you guys, and I said but I do love Jamie Bendel.
Oh.
But you were talking over me, so I just decided to say I love you, so we could move on past this part.
Solid. Good. There you go. Just to shut you
But
up.
now,
you're right.
now you want to drag it out a little more, so I think I'll go back to the original stance.
You're right.
Attaboy.
You know,
right.
if I
He
could
doesn't
count the
love
number
us.
of times I've said I love you just to shut somebody up, like, it's true. It's a good go-to.
All right. So this is the podcast. Jamie Bendel, Jamie Hearn, and Adam Haig. Our guest this evening is Tom Rhodes, comedian, well-regarded, has a terrifically interesting story that I can't wait to delve into for those of you that may be less familiar with it. How you been, my friend?
Yeah, up and down, but I'm on an upswing, so that's good.
Where are you calling home these days?
Los Angeles. I've been living in Los Angeles for 6 years in August.
If you follow Tom on social media, you have, I think, one of the most epic bookcases that regularly featured in people's social media.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lifelong reader, and I didn't live anywhere for 10 years, and I kept everything in storage, so I was able to preserve my book collection and my massive vinyl record collection. You know, relentlessly traveling for years, whenever I would finish a book, no matter where I was in the world, I would mail the book to either my mother's house or my dad's house, so that I would never lose books that I read.
Do you feel like, and you know, you have really spent a good part of your professional career entertaining audiences around the world. Your resume in terms of countries performed in is probably as extensive as anyone's. Do you feel like this experience that we've all lived through with the pandemic will leave the world smaller and more closed off?
When we come out of the pandemic, I think comedy is going to be hotter than it's ever been, even bigger than the 80s boom, the early 2000s boom. I think people are just so starving for entertainment and to be among other people. You know, I watched a lot of animal documentaries during the pandemic, and it's always when somebody gets, the wildebeest is fine as long as he's with the group, but once he gets off by himself, that's when there's trouble. And I think human beings, we thrive in groups, and I think people have been so stressed out and so much chaos that I think comedy is going to be massive. The downside on the international stuff, as you know, in 2019, I put out this album called Around the World, and I recorded it in 24 cities around the world. A lot of those gigs don't even exist anymore. The pandemic wiped it all out. Well, first of all, there was gigs in China that I've done for like 20 years. Beijing. I mean, the rooms have changed over the time, but Beijing, Shanghai, those English language shows were all shut down by the Chinese government, like in 2019, and then the pandemic kept people inside, away from establishments. So a lot of those places went out of business.
That's a bummer. I mean, when you think about that, and as you talk about that resurgence of comedy coming out of the pandemic and the ability to kind of, I think you're right that the world needs a little bit of relief and a little bit, and people coming out of that, honestly just want to laugh. Give me something to be funny at, and a lot of those venues that they went, throughout the world that people went to, won't be there, and that's interesting what that means for comedy.
Well, yeah, and a lot of places that had international touring headliners. I mean, a lot of clubs in the States also aren't going to be able to be flying headliners around the country for a while. But those international gigs, a lot of them, I don't think are coming back. Like the Atlanta Punchline survived the first bubble bust because it was the best club in Atlanta.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got all that podcast revenue to fall back on, though. So it's a good life. Yeah, there.
Well, so it's interesting, Tom, and we're going to transition out of this segment here in just a second. But it is interesting how comedy does help transition you from, and I'm going to use the bigger terms, tragedy into triumph, right? The ability to bring humor back, it is what finds common ground among people. And when we can't be together, we can't laugh together. And when we can't laugh together, I think we find ourselves more naturally divided.
I think you're absolutely right. And, I think the whole original concept of laughter, when we were cave people, the dinosaurs were hunting us, we're frightened in the caves. And then once the danger passed, everybody was relieved and they could laugh. So I hope, people haven't been getting that relief from whatever their fear and worry is.
Right. All right. We're going to pick it up back after this break here with Tom Rhodes. This is the podcast. Jamie, and Adam back right after this.
Stick around, Sheep.
All right, so we are back. Our guest this evening, Sheep, is Tom Rhodes, talking a little bit about the importance of comedy, how it's been impacted a little bit internationally. All right, so Tom, talk to me about what you've been doing on social media. What was the thought process behind it? Because for anybody who's been following it, you've been posting terrific clips that really give insight to people who maybe haven't seen it in a while, kind of what your story is and kind of you in context. I've loved it, but tell me, what was the genesis of that?
In 1995, I had been on Comedy Central for a few years, and then I had got my NBC deal to make a sitcom. So, I mean, that was a pretty sweet period in my life, and I was generating a lot of money. So I set out to make a documentary about myself and how I've evolved as a stand-up comedian. I originally set out trying to make a film with this guy from San Francisco who, anyway, he had been a film student, and I was in a small project that he had been. And a lot of things happened in the course of making this movie. I had the sitcom for a year, and then it went away. And then I moved to New York City to get back into stand-up. And then I started doing the European circuits, and I moved to Amsterdam for a love story. And the love story didn't work out, but I was discovered by a Dutch television network who gave me, they let me be the host of a late night talk show on Dutch television. The guy that I made this film with was a complete headache through the whole process. And he could never get the film done. It was always another $2,000 I can finish it. Another $3,000 I could finish it. And it was an endless money pit. And I actually, the one frivolous purchase I made when I had my sitcom, I bought a 1966 convertible Eldorado Cadillac.
Cadillac.
This guy was kind of a loser. He didn't have a car, and I gave him this car when I moved to Amsterdam. But in the hopes that it would
spur him to finish the project.
Exactly. So I ended up when I finished after the Late Night Talk Show, the same network let me be a presenter on a travel show. And so that's where the film was supposed to end, with how this Dutch television career that I had over there. I had moved back to Los Angeles, and the dude, he would yell at me. This guy was such an ungrateful turd, and I asked for everything back. And he gave me all these tapes. I said, "Listen, I can't do this anymore. You're not a pleasant human being to work with, and you're incapable of finishing the film. So I just want everything back." And he gave me these boxes of tapes, and then I didn't live anywhere for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled the world as a comedian, and then I got this place in Los Angeles 5 years ago, and 3 years ago, Ron Glass died. And and when we made the film, we interviewed Dave Chappelle, Jeannie Garofalo, my father, my sister, who are now deceased. And sorry, this is a long story, but it's a big story that goes with that footage that you're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got everything out of storage, when I moved to LA, I paid a few $1,000s to have the tapes digitized. Guess what? He gave me garbage.
Oh.
Half the tapes didn't even have sound, and there were none of the edits. So,
but Tom, if you'd only given him like $3,000 more, you probably could have gotten all that.
I know. I should have told him I loved him more often.
Hang on a second.
So anyway, so when Ron Glass died 3 years ago, Ron Glass was on Barney Miller, and he was also on my sitcom, and we had done a beautiful interview with him. So I had not been in touch with this guy in years, the guy who I was making the movie with. So I reached out to him and I said, Ron Glass died. We did a great interview with him. He writes me back and he says, "Hey, if anyone ever wants to start the Tom Rhodes Museum, I have all of your tapes." So I couldn't have been friendlier to the guy, writing him. And I said, "Listen, I don't care about the movie. All I care about, I'd love to get the tapes back because I'd love to see my deceased father and sister speak words again." Shortly thereafter, he starts telling me I owe him for storage space.
Ooh.
Yes. So I couldn't have done this for the 10 years I didn't live anywhere. I had a filing cabinet, and I made a contract with this guy in 1995. And as lawyers, I think you'll appreciate this story. I looked through every piece of paper in this filing cabinet, and I found a 1995 fax paper copy of the contract. And, the lettering was faded. I think a couple more years from now, I wouldn't even have been able to read it. So I contact the lawyer on the letterhead, Lawrence Rhodes, and I said, "I don't know if you remember me, Tom Rhodes." I tell him my story. The guy writes me back and goes, "Tom Rhodes, you're one of the nicest people I've ever dealt with in entertainment. You sent me your first 2 albums." I have no memory of that. And he says, "Let me send one of our moles into the archives, and I'll get back to you in a couple of days." Oh, and in 1995, I spent $500 to do this contract. And I remember at the time almost not doing it because I thought that was a lot of money. The guy gets me 2 days later, he emails me the contract, and it's got both of our signed signatures on it. So Lawrence Rhodes is now a very big entertainment lawyer. I couldn't afford him, but I got a friend of mine who's a lawyer to act as my lawyer. And this kid had moved back to his mother's house in Sonoma. And my wonderful ex-wife, Ashna, doing some investigation, found the address. We served the dude the lawyer's contact. We want everything back, and here's the contract. So here's the part you can appreciate.
I feel like this is going to go in an OJ direction.
No, it isn't. Let him go. We're right at the spot. Don't let him.
Okay.
Lawrence Rhodes, the lawyer, worded this contract so beautifully. And it said that it is understood that Mr. Rhodes pays for everything, therefore Mr. Rhodes owns everything. It is also understood that the director, Gary Smithson, oops, you might want to
Cut that out.
bleep his name.
Swifton.
It's going to be in the title of the episode.
Yeah. That he has to store the tapes at his own expense, and if they're damaged, lost, or stolen, he's responsible for the cost. And if Mr. Rhodes is unhappy with the project at any time, he can ask for his property back and terminate the working arrangement.
Nice.
So I got, it was like 50 mini DV tapes. I got them about 2 years ago, and it took me. I had to, build up I had to have a couple of extra thousand to get those digitized.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few months ago, I watched all the footage, and I made notes for a friend of mine to chop them up into 1 to 3 minute clips. So all of those vintage clips that you're seeing now that I'm posting was out of my possession for 15 years.
Tom, think about how good of a movie you could have had if you had given him a BMW instead of a Cadillac.
I think the movie
No.
might actually be about the tapes and the getting it.
The movie could be about the tapes and the getting it back.
If we set that in Georgia, because everything's filmed in Atlanta now, so if we set that in Georgia, I see the scene where it's a white tuxedoed big guy in like out of Macon, and he says, Your Honor, I said we do have a contract. My client has found the contract, and they pull it out, and it's like Perry Mason, boom, and the whole room erupts with an ooh and ah, and the poor guy slinks back into the corner, back to Sonoma, where he's hiding in his mom's basement.
All right, so let me ask you this then, to tie that back. Do you feel like the social media, where we are as it relates to social media, the footage that you have is in some respects more suited to this environment because of the ability to cut it into clips rather than having to make it into a movie?
I think so, because there's so much of this that would never have been seen. Like all the jokes. I had filmed so many live performances. And, Jamie, hindsight is 2020. Looking at the footage now, and I thought, I shouldn't have done a documentary. I should have put out a special that was shot in a club, because I had all these beautiful shows filmed, but nobody did specials from clubs back then.
Right.
Special was always in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, is the answer to your question, because I can chop up all the great jokes that are left over, and like I can chop up everything Dave Chappelle said instead of just using one or two clips.
Right.
And I'm milking this. I'm milking this footage. I'm showing it, and it's such a joy to finally get it back and to be able to do something with it. Oh, and then when we started making the film, Seinfeld had never the movie Comedian.
Right.
That I started working on this film like 10 years before that came out.
Yeah.
So I was really swinging for the fences on trying to do a great film about what it's like to be a comedian.
Well, and I'm still not entirely certain that the actual comic experience really has been captured on film. People get close, but I'm not sure anybody ever gets all the way there, particularly the way.
You don't think Sally Field and Punchline nailed it?
I don't know. That was less. All right, we're going to be back with more.
In the basement.
Yeah, we're going to be back with more Tom Rhodes right after this. This is the BHHcast. Don't wander.
All right, pop quiz, hotshot Broadway boy. I've got continents, you have Broadway shows.
All right, I'm in.
South America.
Evita.
Easiest one, North America.
Hamilton.
Europe.
Phantom of the Opera.
Africa.
Lion King.
Asia.
Miss Saigon.
Some people don't feel like it's a continent, but I'm going to name it anyhow. This one will stump you. Antarctica.
Happy Feet.
And that, we're out. Good job, Broadway boy.
All right, we are back. This is the BHHcast. Tom Rhodes is our guest this show. Jamie Bendel, Jamie Hernan, Adam.
Just a second. There's a couple sheep we just got to get back in here. Come on. Back to the feed bag. Let's go.
Adam Haig. Tom, I want to change our focus just a little bit. One of the things that we do on this show is the concept of the meat and three. Cafeteria style, you pick a meat, you get three sides. In your life, What is the meat? What's the organizing principle around which everything else revolves?
New jokes. New jokes is my core business.
Okay.
Everything great that's ever happened to me in comedy, and everything great that ever happened to me was because somebody saw me crushing it as a stand-up comedian. My high school baseball coach gave me some of the greatest advice in life. He said, you should never be trying to hit a home run. A home run should be the accident of a line drive.
Yeah. All right. So if new joke is the organizing principle, then what's the three? What are the three attributes that you would like people to most closely associate with you?
Intelligence, compassion, and survival.
Oh, I like those. Let me ask you this, and I didn't want to in the context of the story about the footage. Was it a challenging experience? What was it like to see that footage of that conversation with your dad or with your sister?
Oh my God! And it was like, thanks, Jamie. That's a great question. Because I mean that's really what it's all about. Was the reason I wanted to get the tapes back in the first place. And I advise everyone listening to this to film the people you love in your life, because you never know when someone could be snatched from you. It was worth all the money, all the headaches, everything that I went through with the low-life turd that kept my footage for 15 years. It was worth everything, and all the money and heartbreak that went with it, just to see my father and sister speak words again. And, it was a film about me, so like they were talking about me. I wish I'd have just filmed them, telling stories, or they're giving their opinion about anything,
Yeah. I've often kind of thought about that exact scenario that says, so my dad was a history professor, right? And his students taped his lectures, and they've given me the tapes of his lectures. But this is before, he died a long time ago, before the internet was even around. But now, like, even with the podcast and even with YouTube videos, like, my grandkids will be able to hear my voice and our personalities forever with the internet and computers in a way that, you've never had before. So whereas you and I kind of were desperate for something to hold on to, future generations are actually going to have us in spades, which will maybe be good, maybe be bad.
Yeah, I was just thinking I might need to adjust what I'm
we're
saying.
Gonna
My grandkids are listening to this? Oh, hell.
What was your father's main historical obsession?
Yeah, so he Latin American history and the rise and fall of empires. Yeah, exactly, throughout Latin America.
Cool.
We've never discussed this on the podcast, but my favorite musical of all musicals is Evita.
Oh.
For exactly that, love that part of learning about Argentine history.
Oh, yeah.
Through that.
My mother's from Buenos Aires.
Oh,
and that's
awesome.
the first thing I thought when you said that, because Paraguay used to be part of Argentina. I think Uruguay too. And the history of how they split up and Bolivar liberated the continent, fascinating history that we're never taught.
Right, which is actually most people don't have a very good background on, and yet it is incredibly interesting.
I learned this weekend that my grandfather sailed through the Panama Canal as the captain of a ship at least 50 times.
Okay, are we playing ancestry poker now?
No, but
you're
I was
trying
just
to raise
thinking,
me?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying.
Wow.
I'm concurrent.
Oh, your late father.
Yeah, was a history professor, and I was getting all kinds of credit. Well, my grandfather drove back and forth the Panama Canal.
I think my grandfather had a Panama hat once.
There we go. And it looked good in it.
So listen, I'm struggling.
My grandfather was Noriega.
I'm struggling right now. My mother hates having her picture taken.
Pablo Noriega.
Oh, no.
Right? And I struggle with respecting her wishes not to take her picture and hiring a private investigator just to track her and be like, if she smiles by any chance, could you please, I don't think she's doing anything wrong. I just need pictures of her because she won't actually sit still to let us take a picture of her.
Yeah.
And I know that at some point she'll be gone and I'll lament not having pictures of her.
Would she notice if you were wearing a body cam?
I know what we're doing next time you go to Florida. I'm just going to go down with you.
Yeah,
I'll
just
hang
track
out
down.
wherever you guys go to dinner or whatever. I'm at the table next to you and subtly just taking shots after shots of Mom.
Look casually over here, Mom.
Yeah.
Or we're doing a documentary about Bendel.
Yeah, we're doing a documentary about Jamie, and we just need some stills, Mom.
To apropos of what Tom was talking about, we're of a hybrid generation, right? All of us, where the home videos that we probably first appeared in children were most likely those old 8mm.
Yeah, if at all, right?
If at all.
Most people didn't have video cameras or the ability to film their family,
But they were without sound,
right.
right?
Yeah, and did you see? I'm sorry to cut you off, Jamie. Hold that thought. Did you see the footage of me boxing and then me being a cowboy?
Yeah.
So that's from No Sound 8mm.
Yeah,
So awesome.
My dad had those cameras, and then he had a video camera after that.
Yeah, but I would love to hear. You're always imagining. You're missing such a key part of it. You know,
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a thing, Tom, where my mom had a stroke a couple of months ago, and when we were talking about some of the challenges that she had, and one of the biggest things that she described as a loss was the loss of her handwriting. And you realize how much your identity is in what it looks like when you write, you know? So we have I think the things that we carry of our past are the words that are written to us and the handwriting that we recognize, the words that were spoken to us, and then the pictures. And then at some point that kind of becomes, you know, really the underpinnings of our identities.
Right.
You know?
This is horribly insensitive, but my handwriting definitely looks post-stroke.
Oh, it is. I think it is. But I think kind of to bring this all back, like that, what the value of those recordings, and that Tom, you know, you had to fight for, and that, you know, went through hell and high water to get back. And the movie maybe didn't work out, but the social media stuff is incredible. And the value, though, to you and to your family and to the next generations of your family, and like, you know, it will be immeasurable. Can you imagine? Like, I couldn't imagine having that about my grandfather, right? And be able to say, like, go back in Ancestry.com and say, not only here is a picture of your grandfather, here's the little, you know, census note, but here are comedians of his time talking about his talent. Like, that's gotta be awesome.
Yeah, and I think, you know, more people will see this footage now in this way. Like, you know, kind of you and what Jamie said before. I think, you know, it was long and stressful, but I think now's the best time to release this stuff a little bit at a time. And then, you know, my sister died of breast cancer at 37, 10 years ago, and she's greatly missed. And I know my mom and everybody really loved seeing her talking on video again. So yeah, I mean, it's priceless, definitely.
Yeah.
I want to make a mock documentary of the captains of the Panama Canal of the time talking about Bendel's grandfather.
We could shoot that whole series. Yeah. The Bendels going through the Panama Canal.
So let me just caution you.
Be careful there. He's very sensitive about grandfather in the canal.
That, you know, my grandfather ran away from home when he was very young, leaving behind a large family of brothers and sisters, parents who cared about him, to make his life on the high seas. And
I thought just making that comment after the story about Tom's sister was bad enough, and that's where I was going to get the
ouch.
That's where I was going to get
Here comes
slapped.
more ouch.
No.
The slapping continues.
Yeah.
Please hold.
Yeah.
No, but
No, keep going.
so this man was a son of the sea.
I am the son of a
sailor.
sailor.
Yeah, Jimmy
I'm a
was
Jimmy
writing
Buffett
about
son.
him. So put that in your pipe and smoke it before you start bad mouthing the
You
Panama
cannot
Canal.
call
boy.
yourself a Jimmy Buffett song if you do not wear sandals.
Oh yeah, he has a weird flip flop thing, Tom. But we'll get back to that in the next segment.
All right, we're going to be back in just a moment. This is the podcast. Jamie, and Adam, our guest, Tom Rhodes, will return momentito.
Have you ever thought about a movie that accurately portrays the comedian life?
I have thought about the fact that capturing the real experience of comedians or other performers is extremely challenging, and most don't do it well.
Do you think it would be a comedy, or do you think it would be kind of on the darker side, or do you think it would be, what do you think the film would really look like?
I think that if well done, it would be a psychological thriller.
Interesting.
So if we accept the fact that most thrillers are often disconnected from reality, right? So like the Bourne Ultimatums, use those as an example. Those don't actually exist in real life. When you hear about a bad event happening in another country. So think about any scene, car chase, multiple car crashes, gunfire in the piazza.
Gone in 60 seconds, right.
Whatever that is, those would make the news.
Yep.
And if you saw that on the news, you wouldn't think, well, clearly they're chasing a spy who doesn't know what his identity is, and this is all the stuff.
Don't you have a dream, though, to go to a foreign country and find the U.S. Embassy and go running full speed towards the gates saying, "Open the gates! Open the gates! Open the gates!"
No?
All right.
Okay, do you think that there would be any circumstance in which you would even attempt it?
If I really had to use the restroom and I was having trouble finding a place because of language barriers, that might be where I'd tend to go.
You've raised an interesting question, something I've never considered before, that you have toilet rights as a tourist in the embassy of your home country.
I think you definitely do.
So if you said,
I'm an American citizen.
I'm an American citizen, I'm allowed to use the toilet here.
Yeah. It's the legal fiction, too, because you're actually on U.S. soil as soon as you step into the embassy.
I think you are allowed to use other bathrooms, when you're on foreign soil. I do think that's allowed.
Of course you
Other
are.
countries' bathrooms?
Yes, I think you are allowed.
Of course you
as
are.
American
can.
citizen.
I mean,
Right,
but I
obviously.
think there are people who are bathroom shy.
Yeah. Don't do it directly on foreign soil. That's frowned upon.
So I've heard that the toilet water in the Southern Hemisphere goes the other way.
Not in the U.S. Embassy.
Could you possibly redirect it in the U.S. Embassy?
In the U.S. Embassy,
Like if
that's
we
I
used-
need.
Imagine you're in the U.S. You think you're in the U.S. Embassy, but then you notice that the toilet water is going the wrong way,
And you know you're
get the
trapped.
hell out of
You
there.
know you're trapped.
I've been captured.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It's
It's
a
a
ruse.
trap.
It is a ruse.
I just want Liam Neeson to play me.
Well, in fairness, it's a really good call because, like Liam Neeson, you, Jamie, have a very unique set of skills. Tom Rhodes, our guest on the BHHcast, Jamie, and Adam. We are turning the corner into a little bit of a discussion. Actually, we'll go lightning round this round. All right, so Tom, we're going to do lightning round. Lightning round is deep questions with brief answers.
Okay.
All right. So now we give our guest the choice of whether they prefer to go clockwise or counterclockwise as it relates to how the order in which the questions will be asked.
So you're
Let's stick with clockwise.
okay.
Clockwise.
Okay.
All right.
No
so
doubt.
starting
Conformist.
with
Jump right in.
Jamie, we are starting clockwise.
Which animal would you feel comfortable picking up if they were hitchhiking?
I have a thing with lions, but the way the question is worded and how lawyers are sticklers for wording, I will stick to the definitive meaning of your question and go with a sloth.
The sloth. Okay, excellent. And lightning round continues as I go to, if you had an unlimited budget and 1 hour to shop, where would you go and what would you buy?
Right now, it would be either baseball cards or food on Rue de Montaguy in Paris,
Ooh.
and specifically this patisserie called Storer, the
Nice.
oldest patisserie in Paris, and
No way. They're our sponsor.
They're
their
not.
fruit
It's-
fruit tarts are divine.
It is literally lightning round, and I would love to talk to you more about that baseball card thing, and I'm hoping we can visit it in the next segment because I really want to talk about that. But Jamie.
Who is your least favorite character in a book?
God, I just finished reading this book called The Master and Margarita, and it was written in the 1930s. It's about Satan goes to Moscow and starts putting on performances in a theater. It's supposed to be a classic. I actually heard about it on a BBC program a year ago. the book wasn't as entertaining as you thought, as I thought it was going to be. It's regarded as a classic. There wasn't enough performance. There was more, too much about the after effect of the chaos created and all the people. So I thought it was a pretty weak, the devil. Yeah.
Do we need to revisit the concept of lightning round to you, Tom?
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's just a quick answer. It's no. Don't mean to be rude. I'm just, who's the bad guy?
You are.
You're the bad guy. I was a little bit of a bad guy. I grant you.
Tom
I was a little bit.
Definitely not talking about baseball cards.
I wanted to talk baseball cards, and I've gotten a lot on the book that wasn't any good.
I'm sorry. That was a long answer. I apologize.
All right, so Tom.
Okay.
If you were to hypothetically pick up a lion as a hitchhiker, would you allow them to sit in the front seat or would you make them sit in the back?
I hate these animal questions.
I'd let them drive.
Let them drive.
Nice.
Good. Tom, and this is the jerk to cut off your last one, so you can go ahead and lay into me. What's your favorite gift you've ever gotten?
The Evel Knievel wind-up motorcycle and doll.
Oh,
that was the greatest toy I ever had as a child, and I got it for Christmas when I was like 10.
Oh, that's heaven.
And I bought one on eBay about 6-7 years ago. As an adult, it's still great to play with. And I actually took it to Montana with me, and I set up a little ramp, and I had the doll jump Evel Knievel's grave. I filmed it. It's on YouTube somewhere.
That's
okay.
Amazing.
This is do not cut them off in lightning round because they might get an awesome story like Evel Knievel's grave. That was a good one.
Just think what the last one would have produced.
I can't imagine.
Tom, if you could choose to remain an age forever, what age would you choose?
I don't know. I'm pretty happy with myself right now. So 54.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna, okay, maybe, yeah, okay. I think I like the 50s.
All right.
I have to make my wording here correct.
Be careful with the animal stories. Not another
which
one.
Animal?
Oh Jesus!
Which animal do you think would be the best at creating a secret handshake with? I wouldn't answer that either because I ended the sentence with a preposition. I get it. I understand.
Well, I'm picturing the hands and paws of animals. I think the Siberian snow monkeys.
Ooh, very nice. I don't even know what that is, but I'm gonna look it up. Favorite place to sit in the house?
At my big table where I write and create things.
Nice.
What's the most embarrassing fashion trend that you participated in?
Oh my God, parachute pants is number one. I had a variety of colors, 82 to 84. But I think and my sister used to tease me about this in the 15-minute window that these were fashionable. I think probably the worst fashion choice I ever made was Z Cavarici pants.
Ooh. Z Cavaricis.
That sounds fancy.
Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
In the 80s, and you had to wear it with like a long belt tied.
Yep.
Bonus question: which animal would be the best jazz musician?
Oh, you're ridiculous.
I think a hippo or an elephant, just for lung power.
All right. Well, we're going to end on the sad note of which animal would make the best musician. That was your question, right? I kind of tuned out.
It was a pretty bad one. Yeah.
It was a great question and a great answer. The elephant is a perfect jazz musician.
Okay, I grant you. An elephant is an incredible jazz musician, but your question's me.
Yeah.
All right.
One
more segment?
We're going to be back with a final segment here with Tom Rhodes. This is the BHHcast. We shall return. All right, everybody. We have maybe a segment or two left here with Tom Rhodes to finish up some, topics that were raised in earlier portions of our conversation.
Can we just get right to it because I'm so excited about this topic? I mean, I'm really excited about this topic. Tom, let's talk cards. Let's talk sports cards and baseball. Are you a baseball card collector, football card collector, basketball?
No, just baseball.
Okay, baseball. And in your collection, how does it sit? Are you more of a modern? Are you in that horrible steroid era that most of my cards are, or are you before that?
My collection started when I was a kid in the, I think late 70s. I think I first started getting cards about 77. So
Nice.
all through the first half of most of the 80s, that's the bulk of my collection. And my father preserved my baseball card collection for me. You always hear about someone's mother throwing out their collection.
Yeah.
My father did the opposite. My father secured mine, and then when I was in my 30s, he pulled it out and said, "Look what I've been keeping."
That's so cool. So when you look at your collection, what is the card that you would, or one, a card or two that you stand out as like your favorites?
And I bought these in the 90s. I love biographies. I love hero stories, and I got 3 Roberto Clemente cards.
Oh wow!
So I'd say those are probably among my favorites. I got Mark McGwire rookie card. I got Barry Bonds rookie card. I've got Bo Jackson rookie card.
Awesome.
I got a lot of good stuff, but I'm not in it for the money, and I don't do it for value increasing and anything like that. I would never get rid of any of it.
You
Adam,
say that now, but I'm telling you, if you look at the COVID, how much cards have increased, it's been nuts.
I am going to disagree with you because I don't think you know your guest well.
Oh, okay. Maybe I don't.
I don't think that I've known Tom long enough to know that
It's more sentimental.
it's not sentimental. I think that the metric of value is not always aligned person to person to person.
I concur.
And so
there.
I would.
Yeah, and it's the joy I get from it, and it's what I love about baseball is that it has this ability to bring me back to my childhood innocence, and that's what my cards do for me also. And it's the aesthetic beauty of it. I mean, there's certain just action photos of guys on cards, and I'm not a big sports guy at all. I don't follow statistics and stuff like that, but I always loved baseball. I could stop and watch little kids play Little League. I just love it.
Adam told me maybe on a previous episode or afterwards or at some point Adam mentioned that there was a particular value to a 1980 Rickey Henderson baseball card.
Yeah.
And I collected cards around the same time as you, Tom. And so I went home that evening, pulled out my old cards, which there were a ridiculous number of cards, all just loosely kept in boxes, made my kids go card through card to find what ended up being one 1980 Rickey Henderson card.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then my kids said, "Now what?" And I said, "I have no idea. I just wanted to make sure I
Oh
had
my
one."
god! And by the way, it's worth upwards of $10,000 to $15,000.
Probably not in the condition
heard-
that it was from being just sitting in an open box. And I also learned that I, for whatever reason, had an unhealthy obsession with Brett Saberhagen.
Did it really? Is that card really worth $10,000?
Yeah. So see, here we go. Jamie, maybe I know you a little bit.
Maybe.
No, that one Rickey Henderson. Go ahead and look at it.
Because I have a movie to finish. I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, those mint ones are going for a ridiculous amount right now.
You got a Cadillac convertible to buy back.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if you had given Gary a Rickey Henderson card.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, PSA, the people who rank those cards or grade them, they're so backed up now. They've actually stopped taking submissions. They've closed down the door because they're so backlogged. So hold on to it. Make sure you're preserving it, but know that you have a ton of value in there, and you may want to get an insurance rider.
All right. So, Tom, one other thing that we do with our guests.
Okay, can I say one last thing real quick?
Yeah.
No, we have time, but yeah, go ahead.
My album that I came out with last year, it's called The Honky Motherland. I recorded it in England. I was opening for this friend of mine. He's famous in England, but he's not well known in America. His name is Reginald D. Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me to open for his UK tour all over England, Ireland, and Scotland. He's from Columbus, Georgia, and he's the hugest Braves fan. So every night we did gigs in Liverpool, Manchester, everywhere. After every night we would go back to the hotel or his house, and the Braves would be coming on at like 1 a.m. And it was so cool to be in Europe watching Braves games every day.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. That's what the joy of baseball is, kind of just the hanging out and talking with your buddy. And it's,
Well, and he came with you the last time you were at the Punchline.
Yes, he did.
And was with us. It's terrifically funny.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And he could go see see the Atlanta Braves in live.
A lot of times the shows are in conflict with the games.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and can I say one more thing about the cards?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things in Los Angeles, Fairfax High School, every Sunday they have a flea market. And I go there every Sunday, and there's a guy who sells sports cards and postcards. And he sells his sports cards for $1 each, and there's just boxes of thousands of them. And I go there, and I'll look through the cards. I found a 1963 Pete Rose for $1. I found a 1968 Ernie Banks for $1.
Oh, wow.
And my friend Reginald D. Hunter, his father died 3 or 4 months ago, and I know he's tore up about it. So I picked out all the Atlanta Braves I could find, and I mailed it to him. I sent him about 50 Braves cards over like a 30-year period of Braves. Mm-hmm. And my girlfriend is from Toronto, and I've been sending her Blue Jays cards. So I look at that as a bouquet of Braves or a bouquet of Blue Jays. So
that's awesome.
Instead of flowers, I like to send people that it would touch their heart.
That's the
baseball card.
That's the collector. That's the collector right there. That's a good, like the kids that strum through the albums, the kids that strum through the boxes of cards, just flipping, and it's just the collector is the guy that likes doing that for an hour and a half and just flipping through the cards and just, hoping to find that one treasure.
Yeah, that was an important detail I thought you should know.
It was a very good one. Thank you.
All right. So, Tom, I want to talk to you about something that we typically do with our comic guests, and it's the concept of the broken bit. So you talked about your organizing principle being new jokes. Is there an example of a joke that you really like? It's a joke that you love, but for whatever reason, you can't quite get it to connect with an audience in the way that you want it to.
Yeah, and maybe you can help me fix this. There's a massive homeless crisis in Los Angeles, and I have an idea to solve the homeless crisis. We need to build a big water slide park in the middle of Los Angeles. We need to let the homeless people run it and operate it, and they'd have a job, and they'd feel good about themselves, they'd be making money, and then they'd also be clean from going down the slides.
Okay. And that doesn't quite connect the way you want it to?
That's the first time that joke ever got a laugh.
It gives them employment, and we bathe them.
Are they allowed to bathe at the beginning of the shift, or is it at the end of the shift?
I don't know. Let's work it out.
All right. So I encourage for those who, I don't know who this would be applicable to, but in the event that you're unfamiliar with Tom Rhodes, I encourage you to go and follow him on social media as he continues to put additional clips out there of this. I don't want to call it lost footage because he always knew where it was, but this repurposed footage, let's say. And I think it provides a great insight to why so many people have such great affection for who you are as a person and a performer.
Yeah,
I completely agree. And I would also say, Tom, what animal do you think would most likely drive a 1966 Cadillac Eldorado?
The car was black paint, black leather seats with black carpet. I would say a black South American Panther.
Ooh, that would be the coolest car to see
top down
rolling down the freeway.
Yeah, is that a Panther driving that Eldorado?
I think it could be. Yeah. The Black Panther? Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, my friend, and hopefully we'll see you before too long here in Atlanta.
Tom, where can people find you on social media?
TomRhodes.net, and it's RHODES, like the Southern Furniture Store or the Greek Island or the Scholar. And on Instagram, I'm @_Tom Rhodes.
And tell us that album that was just released.
In 2019, I put out Around the World, and it's 24 different cities around the world. It starts in Paris, ends in Jerusalem. It's all mostly jokes and stories about each place. And in 2020, I put out The Honky Motherland, which I recorded in England, Ireland, and Scotland, and the same concept.
All right. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Tom.
And, be looking for those Braves cards I'm going to send you.
I appreciate it.
Tom, do you love us yet?
A bouquet.
Tom, do you love us yet?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think
No,
it's
I
just
don't
Jamie
you know
love.
what?
Yeah,
Now,
damn it.
my love is genuine for you.
Oh, thank you.
nice.
That does feel good. You're
Doesn't
right,
it feel
Jamie.
good?
Felt really good.
So wait a minute. So hold on a second.
I love you both. Dale Murphy rookie cards work.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And listen,
now.
I don't want to oversell it and make it weird.
Because it's getting there.
Okay, but no, I mean it. I think that there is a an embracing of life and the possibility of life that, in my experience, Tom has that differentiates him from a lot of people that I have regular interaction with. And I would tell you that as a friend and as a legitimate sentiment, you have encouraged me to get outside my comfort zone on a lot of things. And so I'm very grateful for that.
Wow.
Well, thanks, Jamie. I think that's the best the best compliment I could ever get. There's that Jackie Robinson quote that life is only important in the influence that it has on others or the impact it has on others. So that's a really beautiful compliment. Thank you.
All right, my friend. See you soon.
Been our pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Sheep. That was Tom Rhodes. Great interview. Great friend. And you hate the cliche about these friends are closer than other friends, but I really do mean that if you take the time to kind of get to know who Tom is, appreciate his material and the way in which he does his life, it may get you outside your comfort zone too, which I think is a good place to be.
So, Sheep, as we sign off, just try and get a little more Tom Rhodes in your life. Try and get a little more Jamie. I don't know if you're trying to make me jealous, but it's really working because I don't know what's going on with this relationship and what's happening. If you're going to do another podcast with him, just let's talk about it, right? Anyhow.
All right, we'll catch you next time, Sheep. Taka.
See you next week.
Fire's getting low. This episode of the BHHcast is over. Time to go home now, sheep. Go on, back to where you came from. We'll call you back when it's time for another BHHcast. Taka.